So I've written some puzzle books in retirement, and today I want to actually show you what that looks like because it is hasn't really hasn't gone the way that I thought it would. If you appreciate this kind of content, hit that like button and let's dive right into it. Here's how this whole thing started. I was retired, I had time on my hands, and I wanted something that felt productive without feeling like a job. I've heard people talk about publishing puzzle books on Amazon as a way to bring in a little extra money in retirement, and honestly, it sounds almost too simple. You pick a topic, build some word search puzzle books, upload it, and people buy it. That was the pitch in my head. So I found a tool called BookBolt, that helps me build the actual puzzle pages. And I started making books: wildlife, Bible, camping, sports, jokes, animals of the world. I kept going because if one book could bring in a little bit of money, surely 14 books would bring in a lot of money, right? Well, that was the logic. Over time, I built up a whole shelf of these things. And here's the part nobody tells you when you're selling your ideas your ideas. I published 14 books, and almost none of them sold. Sold a little, almost nothing. I check my sales dashboard and just see zeros week after week. And for a while, I honestly didn't understand why. The puzzles were fine, the books looked fine. I couldn't figure out what I was doing wrong. So I actually sat down and started digging into it properly, looking at what else was out there on Amazon in the same categories as my book. And that's where it began to hit me. My wildlife, word search book wasn't competing against one or two other books. It was competing against dozens of nearly identical books, some from other small publishers, just, like me, quite frankly. All using the exact same title, the exact same format, the exact same claims, easy to read print, gift for vacations, holidays, and free times. I basically published one more copy of a book that already existed a dozen times over, just with my name on it. That was the hard thing to sit with, not because it's anybody's fault exactly. It just happens when a lot of people find the same opportunity at the same time and use the same tools to chase that. But it explained everything. If you appreciate this type of content, please drop a comment below with a side hustle you're thinking about trying in retirement, whatever it might be. I read every comment, and I might make a video digging into the ones people ask me about the most. So then I found something even more embarrassing, and I'm going to be honest with you about this one because I think it's actually useful. I went back through my own descriptions on Amazon, actually reading them line by line instead of just assuming they were fine. And in a couple of my listings, I found leftover text from other books. My sports word search book, if you can believe this, had a line in the middle of it that said this book was for anyone who loves birds. Birds in the sports book. I must have built one description off of a template from another book and never fully swapped everything out. I have no idea how long that had been sitting there on a live Amazon listing, quietly confusing anybody who actually read past the first line. So between books competing against dozens of clones and a few of my own listings literally advertising the wrong topic, it's not really a mystery anymore, why those first 14 books struggled. It wasn't bad luck. It was a couple of very fixable, very ordinary mistakes stacked on top of a genuinely difficult market. Now, here's where it actually gets interesting because I didn't just throw my hands up. I went back and built 3 new books, but I did it differently this time. Instead of picking, another broad topic like animals or sports, I picked things tied to a specific person and a specific moment in their life. The first one is a word search book for retired teachers. Every puzzle is built around classroom life, the stuff only a teacher would really get. The second is for a brand new grandparent, built around a whole flood of joy and exhaustion that comes with the title. And the third one is called Still Learning, which, if you know this channel, is basically the whole point of what we do here. It's for anybody who believes retirement isn't the finish line, it's just a chapter. All three of those are live on Amazon right now. And the difference already feels real, because instead of competing against 50 nearly identical books for the same generic search, each one of these is built for somebody specific. If you know a retired teacher, a new grandparent, or somebody who's just plain still curious about the world, one of these three things was made with them in mind. So, quick break here. If you want to see all three of these books along with everything else I've published, check the link in the description below. I'll be honest, some of the older ones, probably aren't going to turn into big sellers no matter what I do at this point, and that's okay. I'd rather learn the lesson on 14 books than never learn it at all. And that's really the biggest lesson here for anybody watching this who's thinking about starting something in retirement. Whether that's puzzle books or anything else, starting is genuinely the easy part. Anybody can publish a book. Believe me, if I can, anybody can. Anybody can open a shop. The part that actually determines whether it works is going back afterward, looking honestly at what you built and being willing to say, okay, that didn't work the way I hoped. Here's why, and here's what I'm doing differently. That's not failure. That's just how anything worth doing actually goes. Now, one more thing before I go. If you happen to be a retired teacher, a brand new grandparent, or just someone who loves the idea of never, being done learning, I genuinely love to hear what you think if you pick one of these up. Reviews are how small books like mine actually get found on Amazon. So if you read one of them, and it means something to you, you solved the puzzles on it and you enjoyed it, leave an honest review, good or bad. That really does help. So that's it. And thanks for watching. If you want, one of to see all three of these books along with everything else I've published, I've got one link that has my entire book collection in one place. It's called Amazon.com/author/Burl Whaley. That's down in the description below. I've got another video on that you can check out right here. Thanks for sticking with me through all this, and I'll see you in the next video.